Okay, so theoretical probability. That's our first word that we need to put in there. Theoretical. Theoretical probability is the actual chance or likelihood that an event will occur when an experiment takes place. Okay, it's not what will actually happen, but in theory, what will happen is determined by this formula, P for probability, and whatever it is that we want to find the probability of, we call that the event. So if I was rolling a dice and I wanted the probability of rolling a 6, I would go P for probability, and in brackets I'd put a 6. It's going to be equal to the number of favourable outcomes over the total number of outcomes. As I said, this is theoretical probability. So if we're talking about a dice and rolling a 6, there would be 1 6, so 1 on the top, out of 6 possible numbers. So you'd have a 1 in 6 chance. However, if you actually do that experiment and you roll the dice over and over and over again, we call that experimental probability. It doesn't always work out as exactly as we would like. They're the two different types. So what is the probability of rolling a fair die and rolling a 5 or 6? So first of all, the number of favourable outcomes. On a normal 6-sided dice, there is 1 5 and there is 1 6, which means that there is 2 favourable outcomes. The total number of outcomes on the dice is 6. So they're telling you the 2 numbers that you need to put in the formula. If I now want to find the probability, so there's the P, of a 5 or a 6, there was 2 favourable outcomes out of the 6. And we always try to simplify our fractions where possible. Both the top and the bottom can be divided by 2, giving me a 1 out of 3 as my simplified answer. Now, most of the time, you'll be writing your probabilities as fractions, but probabilities can be expressed as fractions, decimals, and percentages. If it's not specified in the question, then the standard response is to give the fraction answer. But occasionally it will ask you to give a decimal or a percentage. A 6-sided dice is rolled, and it does say they're a fair 6-sided dice. Okay, so we are assuming that all the numbers are equally likely to roll. Answer the following questions. First of all, A, list the sample space. The sample space, which we normally give the letter S, we write in some curly brackets. It's a bit of a squiggle to write those brackets. The proper way to do it is you do a curve, then a pointy bit in the middle, and then another curve shape. But any kind of squiggly bracket will be fine. So you open a curly bracket and you want to list off all the possible outcomes for when you roll a dice. So I can get a 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, or 6. And I close the curly brackets. That's how you should always write sample space, okay? Part B, find the probability of rolling a 3, giving your answer as a fraction. So we've got our notation in here, probability of a 3. On a dice, there is one number 3. So there's 1 on the top out of a total of 6 possible outcomes. There it is as a fraction, done. Part C, find the probability of rolling an even number, giving your answer as a decimal. So probability of even. The even numbers on a dice are 2, 4, and 6. So there's 3 of them out of the 6. Now we could simplify that fraction to be 1 over 2. 1 over 2. But it did ask me to give a decimal answer. That's a nice easy one. So 0.5 would be the decimal of that. If you have a harder fraction, remember that you are allowed to use your calculator. And all you need to do to turn a fraction into a decimal is type it in. You press your equals button, and then you press the SD button. It will turn anything into a decimal for you. Okay, obviously that one was an easy one. Okay, part D. Find the probability of rolling a number less than 3, giving your answer as a percentage. Timor, can you stand up, please? Yep, no chair. So, how many numbers are less than 3? When I say less than, it does not include the 3. So it means the 1 and the 2 only. Okay, has to be less than, can't be equal to 3. So there's 2 possibilities out of my 6. So I'm going to simplify that fraction to be a 1 over 3. However, this time I was asked for a percentage. Does anyone know how to turn a fraction into a percentage? Hands up if you think you know. Oh, no, we don't know. Yes, probably. Perfect, yes. Yeah. Percentages are always out of 100. So if you want to turn a fraction into a percentage, you want to multiply it by 100. So that's not one that's going to go very nicely. So we're going to do 1 over 3 on our calculator times 100. And it gives me an interesting looking fraction over there. You can change that into a mixed numeral if you press Shift SD. So there it is, 33 and a third. Percent, you need to make sure you include a percent sign. It would also be okay to write that as a decimal. So if you press the SD button, I'll show you. Press the SD button, it will turn it into a decimal as well. But that makes a very long recurring decimal. It's okay to put something as a decimal if you can leave it exactly. I could write that as 33.3 repeating percent because I haven't rounded that. I've expressed that it's recurring decimal, but please don't round any decimals. If it comes to that, if it's something that you can't do as a recurring decimal, it's better to leave it as a fraction in the like the first one that I did here, the 33 and 1/3. Okay? All right, so you need to have a look at pages 5 to 7 of your workbook. It looks like this.